I do not support corruption.
Welcome forward, loyal viewers and subscribers to the Avenue. Today on the Avenue, we will be looking at Minister of Finance Fayval Williams presenting her first financial budget presentation for the financial year 2025 to 2026. Some people, let's get into it and listen to what this lady got to say, because it is of national concern to all of us. So pay keen attention and leave your thoughts and views in the comment section below, my people, and let us have this discussion. And if you are new here, forward to the Avenue. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. So my people, let's get into it and hear what you got to say.
900 million to the Transport Authority and 210 million to the Jamaica Commodity Regulatory Authority, JACRA. That's in the budget, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me pause to say that the $10 billion allocation to the National Water Commission was the easiest yes for me. I remember as a child in Ty-Dixon that we either had to have a tank in our yard or a drum to catch rainwater in order to have water for cooking, bathing, washing our clothes, and all the other things we do with water. Madam Speaker, even though we had a tank in our yard, the tank leaked, and so unless rain fell heavily, the tank was generally dry. Madam Speaker, I remember many school mornings in order to tidy up to go to primary school, that as children, me, my younger brother and sister, and other children in Ty-Dixon had to go to the one government public tank to catch water in a pan. Put the pan of water, yes. I know. So, Madam Speaker, yes, in order to tidy up to go to primary school, that as children, we had to go to the one and only government public tank to catch water in a pan, put the pan of water on our heads with a cutter under it, to keep it steady in order for us to have water to use before we go to school. And, Madam Speaker, we could not be late for school either. I know that this may still be happening in some rural communities. And so when I say it was the easiest yes in terms of the $10 billion to NWC, it is because I lived the experience of an ordinary Jamaican. An ordinary Jamaican in rural Jamaica, in Ty-Dixon, and I know the hidden hopes and dreams of ordinary Jamaicans. They want running water in their bathrooms, in their kitchens, and available for them when they need it. Madam Speaker, this government will continue to work to make that happen for every Jamaican household. So, Madam Speaker, recently I gave my strongest endorsement to the PPP, Public-Private Partnership, that Prime Minister and Minister Samuda signed with the various partners to build the Rio Cobre water treatment plant at a cost of US $77 million or 12 billion Jamaican to bring an additional 15 million gallons of water to benefit Jamaicans. The deal was criticized for having an interest rate that to those who do not have the responsibility of contemplating and planning the future of Jamaica, that interest rate seems high. When I heard those comments, I WhatsApped Minister Samuda and I said, I will defend this project anytime. Anytime, because the issue in 3 or 4 years' time, when water is needed, as the population in Kingston and St. Andrew and in our 15th parish, Portmore, grows. At that time, in three or 4 years' time, the issue will be water versus no water, not high versus low interest rates. Madam Speaker, I know the hidden hopes and dreams of ordinary Jamaicans for a better life. Our commitment is to continue creating the pathway for that better life. So, Madam Speaker, approximately 2.1 billion, of which 1.1 billion is allocated to the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to provide individual grants of $20,000. That is in the budget. Prime Minister will speak to this in his budget presentation. He announced this at that special conference, remember, back in November of 2024 at the National Arena. That is in the budget, Madam Speaker. There's $1 billion to the Ministry of Science, Energy, Technology and Transportation to support a program dealing with the alleviation of energy poverty. That is in the budget, and I will speak more to that shortly. Restoration and maintenance of major corridors and gullies program at $4.6 billion is in the budget. Our Prime Minister will speak to the specifics of this. And there is $1.96 billion to support the holding of general elections within That is in the budget, Madam Speaker. The payment of principal amounts of $1.5 billion on NHT arrears of approximately $2.5 billion, which includes penalty of $1.3 billion. These arrears were incurred by the ministry responsible for education. That is in the budget. Subvention of $1.7 billion to the University Hospital of the West Indies to address new salary rates and arrears for medical consultants, as well as filling of technical staff position. That is in the budget. UTEC, obviously, Madam Speaker, I can't list every single thing that is in the budget, but to say to UTEC, you are in the budget.
Set the record
Yes.
straight. Real record.
Madam Speaker, I know that DBJ is a public body in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation that channels financing to MSMEs as well as to large projects in order to drive economic growth and development. It will continue to pursue innovative means of mobilizing funding and leveraging private sector investment and expertise through its venture capital program, as well as public-private partnerships and privatization transaction. Madam Speaker, $2 billion is in the budget for DBJ to allow them to continue to facilitate sustainable growth of startups and MSMEs, and to continue support women-led initiatives, entrepreneurship training, including digital skills bootcamp. $2 billion is in the budget for DBJ, Madam Speaker, for MSMEs. We have to commend our MSMEs. The latest figure from the Small Business Association of Jamaica is that there were an estimated 422,000 registered small businesses in Jamaica, generating, and get this figure, 80% of the jobs in the Jamaican economy. This means 1,136,240 persons in our workforce are employed by a micro, small, or medium enterprise. In the picture on the screen, Mr. Headley and his egg farm is one such DBJ, one such person who DBJ assisted to expand his farm. Madam Speaker, the top concerns for small businesses that I hear repeated over and over again, and Minister Hill will tell you as well, is access to financing, and not just plain vanilla access. They want equitable access to financing. They are also feeling the burden of high interest rates and have said to me that opening a bank account for their business is difficult. They feel there's no difference between the requirements for them as MSMEs as opposed to a very large institution. And so my commitment to them is to get together with the Minister Hill, to let us sit down with the banks and see how we can agree to reduce the burden of opening a bank account for MSMEs. Madam Speaker, recently, as a government, we listened to the new car dealership industry. They said that 100% bond on the duties they pay ties up too much of their capital. Madam Speaker, Jamaica imported some 50,786 motor vehicles worth $81 billion in 2022. And if you look at the duties are between 67 to about 88% of the value. And if you assume the lowest duty, you can see that the capital tied up against the duties is significant. We listened to the industry, and now, instead of 100% bond against the duty, we have reduced that to 20%. Yeah.
Very nice.
This frees up capital to invest in other businesses or to expand existing businesses, hire more people, and contribute to economic growth. That was not a call on the budget. That was not a tax incentive. That represents this government listening and understanding the hurdles in the way of businesses and taking steps to reduce or eliminate those hurdles. Madam Speaker, on capital spending, the $62.6 billion proposed for capital expenditure in 25-26 will be spent by central government, and it includes a contingency provision for new public projects of $2.1 billion. Major infrastructure projects under implementation by the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation accounts for $30.6 billion, or 49% of this capital spending across central government. And I am sure the Prime Minister can't wait to speak to his plans for roads and more roads and parks and more parks. That is in the budget. Other ministries are in receipt of significant capital expenditure allocation as well. Ministry of Health and Wellness, 10.2 billion is in the budget, including 5 billion for Cornwall Regional Hospital, 4.1 billion for the IDB-supported prevention and care management of non-communicable disease. That is in the budget. There's 4.6 billion in the budget for the Office of the Prime Minister, including 3 billion for NIDS. That is in the budget. And MSET, 4.5 billion is in the budget for MSET, including 3.2 billion for the procurement of new buses for JUTC. That is in the budget, and I'm sure Minister Vaz will speak to that. And there is much, much more in the budget for Ministry of Education, 4.2 billion, including 1.7 billion to the primary and secondary schools infrastructure project. That is in the budget. At the Ministry of Agriculture, $3.7 billion, and I am sure Minister Green can't wait to tell you about what he's doing for Essex Valley and Southern Plains. $3.7 billion is in the budget for agriculture under the capital program. And MNS, Ministry of National Security, you will 1.7 billion to continue construction of police divisional headquarters in Westmoreland and St. Catherine North. That is in the budget. I am sure, Madam Speaker, that you will agree with me after hearing those robust budget numbers for the various ministries that for an economy that has been so battered by a drought, by a Category 5 Hurricane Beryl, by Tropical Storm Raphael, and rains, especially during the month of November and December, that were well above the 30-year average, that the word for this Jamaican economy and for the people of Jamaica, that word is resilient. Madam Speaker, we must continue to put in place everything that will bolster our resilience as a country and as a household. During the new fiscal year, we will bring to Parliament legislation for micro-insurance. Madam Speaker, not every Jamaican can afford the premiums for traditional insurance sold here in Jamaica, and so we have to meet the people where they are. Madam Speaker, micro-insurance legislation has been talked about, but I give my commitment that micro-insurance legislation will be passed in this new fiscal year. Madam Speaker, I believe that this will significantly improve financial inclusion once it comes into effect, and that our commitment when it comes into effect is to assess how we can help every path family access microinsurance to build financial resilience so that these vulnerable families can manage the financial impact of unexpected events such as illness, a death, loss of income, or natural disaster. Madam Speaker, one player in the insurance industry who is looking forward to seeing the legislation come into being estimates that it is possible to offer a micro-insurance policy with a premium of $250 per month. Not $2,500, but $250 Jamaican dollars per month for a $500,000 benefit that is worth it, Madam Speaker, to assist the most vulnerable to build resilience. Of note, the FSC has indicated that it would welcome the completion of the microinsurance legislation, as it has been a work in progress. FSC said that it would increase insurance penetration in Jamaica through the expansion of access to insurance. This is how we help families build resilience, by creating affordable insurance products to assist them in times of need. Madam Speaker, there are many other pieces of legislation that we must pass in this Parliament in this upcoming fiscal year. The income tax, large-scale projects and pioneer industry will be repealed and replaced as a means of updating the legislation to ensure that it is fit for purpose. The work is significantly advanced for this. If you look at the history of this, it was enacted in December of 2023, but it has not been able to take effect just yet because there had to be some significant rework. By Cabinet Decision number 38/19, dated December 2, 2019, the Cabinet granted approval for the issuance of drafting instructions to the Chief Parliamentary Council to amend this Act. We have been working on it, Madam Speaker. Given the vast economic benefits that the Act is intended to achieve for Jamaica, it is imperative that the Act finally be operational so that the country can reap the rewards from the framework that it established to support large investments and economic development. There is one investment that is waiting for this Act to be passed, and that is the Harmony Cove Limited Development Project. This investment in Jamaica will be $1 billion. We will bring this legislation to Parliament before the end of this fiscal year. This investment is too huge to wait another day. Madam Speaker, Phase 2 of the private pension reform process, referred to as the adequacy phase, seeks to address issues such as the locking in of members' compulsory contributions, vesting of members in relation to benefits derived from the employer's contributions, portability of pension benefits, and allowance for dependent disability pension. This Phase 2, Madam Speaker, has been talked about and dreamt about for a very, very long time. I can recall during my private sector days more than 15 years ago that I was part of several pension working groups. Pension Phase 2 is important, and so I will prioritize this legislation in this upcoming fiscal year. Madam Speaker, in order to continue the innovation in our financial sector, we will quickly pass the Virtual Asset Service Provider Bill legislation, a critical piece of legislation which is not just a regulatory necessity, but an economic imperative for the future of Jamaica. The bill represents a pivotal step in modernizing our financial sector, ensuring our compliance with international financial regulations, and positioning Jamaica as a leader in fintech innovation within the Caribbean. Madam Speaker, Jamaica must pass this Virtual Asset Service Provider Bill to ensure compliance with the Financial Action Task Force, FATF Recommendations 15 and 16. Our financial system must meet global standards on anti-money laundering, AML, counter-terrorism financing, CFT, and the prevention of proliferation financing, PF. This legislation establishes a robust legal and regulatory framework for virtual asset service providers, ensuring that those businesses operate within strict licensing, supervision, and enforcement guidelines. Madam Speaker, beginning with this budget speech, and I will announce shortly, will be the start of our initiatives to encourage local taxpayers to bring home to Jamaica their business income and business activities, including associated businesses and employment, as well as investment holdings that have been established in or transferred to other tax jurisdictions. A Cabinet submission detailing this will be in front of Cabinet shortly for its consideration. And Madam Speaker, I have to be true to the financial sector. In all our contemplations, Madam Speaker, we have to engage with the financial sector around the vexed issue of the asset tax, which they were told by the other side would be temporary. Some ideas have come to me from the financial sector on how we could begin to scale this back. I gave a commitment to review them and work with the sector on this issue. And there are many other ideas that came to me from the financial sector with regards to new products, efficiencies, and so on. And I will begin that engagement with the financial sector. Yeah. Madam Speaker, the Student Loan Bureau has gone through many changes, making itself more efficient and more service-oriented. It is working to move itself to another level, a higher level, with a new and improved customer platform, which should have been launched in 2022, but is now targeted for the first quarter of the new fiscal year 2025-26. This platform will allow students to view their loans, print statements, and pay their loans online, among other functions. The SPL reported to me that the biggest challenge that students have been complaining about is accessing the information about their loans. However, as the student loan says that once their platform is launched, students will see significant improvement in efficiencies. Madam Speaker, during the 23-24 fiscal year, the decision was taken by this government to no longer require path beneficiaries to have a guarantor, and path beneficiaries would have a 100% waiver for application fees. Since then, there has been an 85% increase in the number of path beneficiaries in 2024-25 versus the figure in 2023. Madam Speaker, I want to put on record this government's commitment to improving the offerings from the Student Loan Bureau by the beginning of the school year in September 2026. A Capri study has given us excellent suggestions on how to modernize the student loan offerings. We are committed to doing the overhaul of the student loan system and will engage Capri as we start that process this upcoming fiscal year. But so, Madam Speaker, to let Jamaicans know our headspace and where we're heading, we are committed to an increase in the loan amounts that students will be able to access, and for the disbursement to include not just tuition, but also housing, books and supplies, the cost of a laptop, and a stipend for meals. We are also committed to a meaningful reduction in interest rates on the various loans, and we are committed to longer loan payment periods. As you can see, Madam Speaker, these would be significant changes to how the Student Loan Bureau operates currently. And so we have to work with the Student Loan Bureau to be able to launch these initiatives for the new school year starting September 2026. It's going to take time to implement these changes. The student loan is building bridges and transforming dreams. But while we wait for those changes, this government, through the Student Loan Bureau, will be offering to new students a longer repayment period of 10 years instead of the current 7 and 5 years. And the rates will remain the same, meaning the rates will not increase because the payment period has increased. We are starting with that one step, Madam Speaker, and will work rapidly to ensure the systems are in place to roll out the new loan offerings to make the lives of our tertiary students better and allow them to focus on attaining their educational goals to benefit themselves, their families, and Jamaica as a whole. The student loan is building bridges and transforming dreams. Madam Speaker, you may recall that earlier I highlighted the $2 billion that is in the upcoming budget for the DBJ for unlending for many small businesses. In addition to that, Madam Speaker, we're also raising the GCT exemption for small businesses from $10 million to $15 million. So in addition to all the items I listed that are in the budget, which was good news number one, and the work that the Student Loan Bureau will be doing to improve the offerings, which was good news number two, raising the exemption from 10 million to 15 million for MSMEs is good news number three. Madam Speaker, as we accelerate the pace of economic growth in Jamaica, accelerated capital allowance is one strategy that this government will use to move growth to a higher level. In general, as businesses know, because they currently get capital allowance on specific capital expenditure, like industrial buildings, plant and machinery, and information technology equipment, it is a tax relief to the companies because they would be allowed to deduct some portion of the cost from their taxable profit over time. This deduction, the capital allowance deduction, reduces the company's overall tax liability and provides a fiscal incentive for business growth and business investment. Madam Speaker, as a government, we would like to see greater investments among our companies. And so we are making a special provision for accelerated capital allowance on industrial and non-industrial commercial buildings, plant and machinery, which includes automatic data processing equipment. This will be over a 2-year period. We will publish that schedule. It is kind of too detailed to read out right now, but suffice it to say, it gives significant accelerated capital allowance over a 2-year period. And so, We are encouraging companies to take the opportunity to upgrade their machinery, their ITC infrastructure, their industrial buildings, to help expand their output.
From the Avenue, this is all for now, my people. What is your thoughts and view on all of this? Leave it in the comment section below. And if you are new here, welcome forward to the Avenue. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the Avenue. I'm out for now. Catch you in the next one.